like to call to order the City of Algoma Common Council meeting on April 5th, 2021. Let's have the facilitator take the roll, please.
Mehring.
Here.
Dashlet.
Here.
Spoor.
Here.
Gressel.
Here.
Weeze. Here. Meverden.
Here.
Pabick.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Let the minutes reflect that this meeting is held in compliance with the open meeting law. Are there any changes to the agenda as published? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Moved by Kevin. Second by John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the meeting minutes from March 1st, 2021. Everybody have a chance to review those? Are there any questions, additions, or corrections?
Move for approval.
Moved by Mitch.
Second.
Second by Jackie to approve those minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Under public comment this evening, we have one or two individuals this evening. One?
One.
Okay.
Diana Baker.
Diana Baker, please come up to the podium. State your name and your address.
My name is Diana Baker. I live at 603 Fremont Street. I want to share with you my recent experience with city government. On Monday, January 4th, 2021, a Public Works employee marked all 6 trees on or adjacent to my property to be cut down. According to the tree list that was provided to me upon request on January 7th, the reason that most of the trees on Fremont Street were proposed to be destroyed is because they were, quote, large trees growing into wires, end quote. City of Algoma ordinance states that an unacceptable reason to remove trees is because they, quote, constitute an inconvenience based on their location, provided they do...
Excuse me.
Excuse me, Diana, if you could hold up a minute. Jared can't hear a word.
Okay, hang on 1 second. We're gonna bring it over.
And it's not even long for you to get on the active speaker. I can't even see her.
Apologize for this. Just hang on a minute then. Can everybody at home see her?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. You want to start over, Diane? I apologize.
Okay, that's all right. All right, my name is Diana Baker. I live at 603 Fremont Street. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
On Monday, January 4th, 2021, a Public Works employee marked all 6 trees on or adjacent to my property to be cut down. According to the tree list that was provided to me upon request on January 7th, the reason that most of the trees on Fremont Street were proposed to be destroyed is because they are, quote, large trees growing into wires, end quote. City of Algoma ordinance states that an unacceptable reason to remove trees is because they, quote, constitute an inconvenience based on their location, provided they do not present a public safety issue, end quote. These trees do not present a public safety issue and were targeted because they are under but not interfering with the power lines. Additionally, 2 trees adjacent to my property on 6th Street just north of Fremont were tagged. The aforementioned tree list describes these trees as, quote, 2 trees wrecking the sidewalk, end quote. The sidewalk adjacent to these trees is in fact quite intact with no breaks, upheavals, or other public safety hazards. However, it is noted that the power lines turn the corner on 6th Street and go north from there. On the afternoon that the trees were marked, I called Matt Murphy and left a message. I called Jared Hine to express my concern regarding 6 trees being removed at 6th and Fremont. He stated that he would check into the matter with Matt. He did not advise me that I had the ability or right to appeal. I next called my Alderman Lee Dashlet. He provided several reasons for the trees being destroyed, none of which were valid. He also stated that the root systems on 6th Street were interfering with the street reconstruction that is being started this summer. I live north of the construction which ends with the fire hydrant on Fremont. Given that Mr. Dashlet is on the Utility Commission, I would assume that he is aware of the construction route. He did not advise me of my ability or right to appeal. The conversation ended with him telling me that I needed to get over it and move on with the times. I then called my other alderman, Jake Meering. He suggested that I appear at the council meeting, which was scheduled for later that evening. He also emailed Matt with a copy to me suggesting that Matt contact me. While being much more supportive and proactive than Mr. Dashlet, he also did not advise me of my ability or right to appeal. Fortunately, I found out from someone totally outside of city government that I did in fact have a right to appeal. On January 11th, 1 week later, Matt met with me. He immediately removed the tags from all of the trees on Fremont and one of the trees on 6th. When I asked him why he removed them so quickly without question, he stated that an employee had marked the trees because he didn't have time to inspect the trees with all of his other responsibilities. It was decided that I would hire an arborist to inspect one tree on 6th Street closest to Fremont and assess its condition. I saw in the Public Works Committee meeting minutes from February that, quote, Diana Baker, citizen on corner of Fremont and 6th, was not happy with city removing her trees on Fremont and 6th. According to our arborist, they were recommended to be removed. Diana Baker hired an arborist on her own to get a second opinion, and that came back the same as the city's, that the trees are to be removed, end quote. Upon reading this, I emailed the city council members, the city administrator, the mayor, and Matt to correct the statement. At the March council meeting, several committee chairs made corrections to the reports. However, no correction was made to the Public Works report, and the minutes now stand inaccurate and uncorrected. I will state once again, I hired the arborist to inspect one tree, and he made a recommendation regarding that one tree only, not all of the trees. Matt told me several times that there were 60 trees targeted for removal in the city. Of those 60 trees, 11 were on the north side of Fremont Street between 6th Street and Sunset, a distance of 9 blocks, with 2 additional trees on the northwest corner of 6th and Fremont. That's 13 of the 60 trees, nearly 1/4 of the total, with 6 on or adjacent to my property, 1/10 of the total. Is there a process for determining which trees are going to be destroyed, or does Matt just send out a worker to mark trees? As city forester, does Matt inspect the trees before they are taken down? Does anyone review the decisions? Are trees being unnecessarily destroyed? What happens to the wood? Word around town is that city employees have the wood split and then sell it for firewood. If this is true, it sounds very similar to me like the DNR guy who was criminally charged for selling sturgeon eggs for personal gain. To the Public Works credit, only 4 of those 13 trees were removed. However, the unwarranted tagging of all of those trees caused a great deal of anxiety and anger that could have been avoided. Algoma is a Tree City USA and as such, quote, receives a growth award for its efforts, end quote. It is also a Bird City USA. Indiscriminate destruction of trees does not support either designation. The one tree on 6th Street has been cut down. Ironically, it had nothing to do with, quote, wrecking the sidewalk. There was a vertical crack in the tree that compromised its integrity. All of the others remained standing, safe and sound. At the time that the trees were tagged, a letter was left in my mailbox stating that a person could call Public Works if he or she wanted any wood from the tree on their property. That letter could also include the appeal process. There are many people who are unhappy with the trees that have been destroyed and feel like I did, that it's the city and that there's nothing that can be done about it. You may shudder at the thought of letting people know that they can appeal a decision, but I believe that knowledge of due process would mitigate some of the ill feelings toward Public Works and the good old boy city government in general. Algoma is a beautiful old town with wonderful mature trees and has been voted a best place to live, one of the 15 best small towns to visit in Wisconsin, and one of the 10 most beautiful towns in Wisconsin. We need to work together to preserve Algoma as a, quote, charming, tranquil town, unquote, that is described in its best of recognitions. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I hope that you will think about what I have said and not just write me off as a cranky old lady who has a beef against the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else for public comment? Is there anyone else for public comment? Is there anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, we're going to move on from public comment, and we're going to go to general bills and credit card payments. Did everybody have a chance to review those?
Please move the microphone back, Jared.
Jeez. Yeah, he's doing it. Again, does anybody have any questions on the bills or the credit card payments? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Jake,
Second.
second by Kevin. Roll call vote, please.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Havoc,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Weeze,
Yes.
Gressel,
Yes.
Boer,
Yes.
Dashlet,
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
Thank you. Committee reports, I'm just going to read this again. The monthly committee reports are now recorded and available for viewing daily on local cable access programming. The committee reports are aired preceding each airing of the city council meetings. The reports may also be viewed on the Algoma Community Access Television YouTube channel. Please contact the staff at City Hall with questions about the monthly committee reports. One comment on that, I did receive a call this weekend where somebody was asking about the new procedure and how we do things, and I explained to them what was going on. The question that was posed to me, and I posed it to the city administrator today, if it's at all possible that we can basically lock in the times that these things were going to be aired, so that if you want to watch it, you know that on Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, you'd be able to watch this. It's kind of helter-skelter out there when you get the programming for the channel, for the cable channel. It's kind of all over the board, so we're going to talk to those people, see if we can nail it down so you know exactly when these things will be aired. Old business, there is none. New business, we're going to go right into new business. We have the Parks and Recreation seasonal hiring of Mitchell Zimmer. Mitch? You want to make that motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion. We hire Mitchell Zimmer. What was our rate gonna be?
11:07.
11.07.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made by Mitch, second by Kevin to hire Mitchell Zimmer as a seasonal employee for the Park and Rec at $11.07 an hour. Any questions or comments?
He's worked for us previously, right? Mm-hmm. And did a good job, so.
Okay, good.
And we did lose one that we're looking to replace.
We'll be hiring another employee as well.
Okay. If there are no other questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Crescent Beach Upstate purchased a new garbage and recycling cans, and that comes with donated funds from the Friends of Crescent Beach. Do you have a little background on the cost on that?
Yes, the Friends of Crescent Beach,
You're gonna have to move up, I think, to the mic, and I don't know if that's gonna pick it up, Sarah, or if you're gonna have to go over here. You can kneel there or something.
the Friends of Crescent Beach did a social media and reached out to the community members and raised over $15,000. I'm not sure where they're at now, but they had a goal of $15,000, and those funds are to be reserved in a account for Crescent Beach Boardwalk repairs. And one of the projects that we wanted to target right away was garbage cans. Some of the need for making sure that they had covers so that garbage doesn't blow into the beach and into the water. So we are purchasing some new garbage cans and a combination of garbage cans that are recyclables and garbage. They're made with a composite material so that they won't need painting. And the cost for those garbage cans were just over $7,000, and they should be going in sometime later this spring.
Sarah, are they going to be secured in some way or shape so that they don't wander away?
They're pretty large. They're bigger than probably a little bit bigger than what we have down there now. So they're large enough that we can hold all of the garbage for our busy weekends. I don't think that they should walk away very easily. They're pretty big.
Any other questions? This is just an informational thing. It's not city funds being used, so the council doesn't have to approve those purchases. But again, thanks to the Friends of Crescent Beach. We appreciate that, and thank you for your
And there was a
update.
lot of generous community members, people who have a strong love for the beach and the boardwalk, all contributed to that.
Good, thank you. Okay, item C, resolution number 1064-2021. Aaron?
It is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with CGI Communications, Inc. for the 2021 Community Development Banners.
Accept the motion in a second.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie,
Second.
second by Lee.
Jake.
Any questions or comments on this resolution? Does everybody understand what this is? Okay, good. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1065-2021 approving, go ahead.
A resolution authorizing the city of Algoma to approve an agreement with Green Bay Metro Fire Department for paramedic intercept services.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved
So
by Nick.
moved.
Second. Second by
John.
John. Okay, questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1066-2021.
A resolution establishing a written policy for the transfer of cemetery grave spaces for the Evergreen Cemetery.
Motion? Moved by Lee.
So moved.
Motion was by Lee, second by John. Questions or comments?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
Okay. What if the lot owners are already deceased and there are available grave spaces?
As long as they provide a will or something that shows. Sorry. As long as the heirs to the estate show proof of a will leaving everything to them, they can use it.
What if there is none? Are you gonna just let 3 spaces, 4 spaces, 5 spaces sit empty for eternity?
Not for eternity, yeah, 50
Okay.
years.
50 years, so we're gonna leave potentially multiple grave spaces open for 50 years, which could potentially mean another generation or 2 generations after the lot owners, correct?
If there's family members that are heirs to the estate, then they would be privy to those as long as they produce the will.
But what if the will doesn't indicate anything about the grave spaces?
If the will says they leave all of their
Belongings, okay?
to, then that's, the attorney's gonna have to look at that for us, but if he says, yeah, that they get it, then they can have it.
Okay, is there, so the other, as far as the owner surrendering, the original deed, what if they can't find the deed? So, and I'm looking at it from a perspective of, the years ago when the lots had to be purchased in multiples, where you couldn't just purchase 2, it was 20 feet or 5 spaces or whatever it may have been. If that paperwork has gone missing, since the original purchase, and if there's no one available left to designate those empty spaces, I'm worried about whether or not we're gonna be losing out on the opportunity to utilize the space we have. Because it's a premium, it's not like,
What we're trying to do is avoid fighting and family members coming in saying, he wasn't supposed to get that, I was, and you just gave it to him. So we need to have something in place that takes us out of it.
okay?
And you can account for most things. I don't know how to account for everything. So if you have some advice and things we could add to it, we can send it back to the attorney and ask them, is this okay to
Well,
add in?
It would be, Jackie, would be my understanding that as in any property questions where an heir or an antecedent can't be found, there is a process to declare properties and other estate items abandoned and recovery by the city or whomever, so that you're moving forward with title, so that vacant properties that you can't find anybody, there is a process that you have to go through, but you can recapture those titles back if you follow that process. So I don't think we're even necessarily married to a 50-year deal. I think what we're married to is the potential of looking at some attorney fees to do the necessary searches, and if you can't find anybody for empty spaces or to agree to disposition of empty spaces, you can recapture that sort of stuff.
So another question that.
Are you talking something similar to a probate process?
Well, no, it's just John, as an example, say you have a property within the city or anywhere for that matter that appears to be abandoned,
Right?
there's no upkeep, nothing occurring or anything else, and the last title holder, say, died 15 years ago.
Okay?
You can go back and you can go through a process to find heirs and antecedents, and there is a legal process for doing that. If you can't, through whatever has been determined by the state or federal guidelines, the necessary time frame and search, you can call those titles back and sell the property or dispose of the property to however the city or the state would see fit.
So treat it as abandoned at that point.
Yes, it's treated as abandoned. And it would be the same thing with anything that holds a title: an abandoned car, an abandoned boat, an abandoned cemetery plot. Those things can be recaptured, but you have to go through the legal process to do that.
Right.
Okay, so cremation is popular. One of the one of the bullets in here has said that the original purchaser can request the city make a notation in its records of any others allowed to use grave spaces purchased. So over the course of the last several years, you get multiple requests for cremated remains to be buried on top of existing burials. So is this saying, so say both individuals are deceased, they are already buried there, and there's a request from a family member to bury the cremated remains of another family member on top of one of these burials, can that technically still be done?
Not if they're both dead already, and it wasn't listed on the card. So when they come in and originally purchase the lot,
Right.
or shortly thereafter, within a year or two, maybe 5, they can come in and say, hey, I now have this daughter, I want her to be able to use this plot, my husband and I are gonna be cremated, we have 2 plots, so we're gonna go on one, she can have the other.
Okay.
Then we'll add her name to the card, and then she can use it in the future. But it has to be the original purchaser that does that. So if they're already gone, then it falls back to the will. If the will left everything to the daughter or the son or whoever, then they get to use it, if it's available.
Okay. Granted, there's a lot of hypotheticals that can occur, which we've come across over the last several years. I would like to sit down and go over some of those things before this would be enacted, because I do have some concerns. Just to make sure that all the bases are being covered and each situation somehow has a resolution based on how the guideline is written, as far as a direction that you can go for a decision if one needs to be made.
So this particular policy is only for transferring of grave space.
Mm-hmm.
That has not been used currently, I believe, isn't that what it says in there?
Yes.
Okay. So this wouldn't be somebody buried on top of somebody else, or,
This is something completely different.
yeah. This is specific to transferring of a grave space
Okay.
that's empty.
Okay. We still should get together though and talk about those other things,
Okay.
and see if there's a policy that can be put in place, or at least some guideline to follow for those as well.
So the concerns that Jackie's bringing up do not pertain into this resolution.
Because this is for
You'd,
unused grave spaces.
you'd wanna,
My apologies.
you
I
wanna,
just wanted to make sure that was in there.
It's in there,
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess, when you look at, from my perspective, because of what we do, I see cemetery grave spaces, and I look at it as a whole, not just specifically for one particular.
And this came about because we did have an issue with a family fighting over a remaining unused grave space. And there's no clear indication of who has a right to that. So one wants us to do it this way, another one wants us to do it this way. We don't have a written policy. So we can do what we've been doing, saying this, but we have nothing to back us up and say, this is what we are going to do. And that's what the council's here for, is to set policy for us to follow. So
Okay.
This was the prime thing for me, you guys.
Okay.
Well, what happens if they come up and they say, prior years or prior, you did it, now all of a sudden you're gonna change it, you're gonna run into problems.
Doesn't matter what was done before, now this is put in
New
place. This is
policy.
what goes from here forward.
Is there any other questions, Jackie?
No.
No,
Sorry.
that's fine. I
No,
think,
that's
I
fine.
think then what we need to do is maybe set some time aside where Jackie can come in and talk to you about some of these other things, and then you can expand upon that with,
Definitely, put some more
Okay.
stuff in place to help guide us.
Okay.
It'd be wonderful.
good. Any other questions from anybody? There is a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1067-2, 2021.
A resolution authorizing the city of Algoma to submit a community development block grant, CDBG, application.
Motion?
So,
Excuse me. Moved by Jake, second.
second.
Second by Casey. You want to just expound on this a little bit, Jared, why we're doing this again?
Can everyone hear me okay at home?
No.
And my mic is off. Okay, yeah, so this resolution is required for our CDBG Public Facilities Grant application. We passed the very, well, identical resolution last year. Oh, that didn't make it any better. I apologize. I don't know if you guys are hearing the feedback at home. We passed an identical resolution last year, and this is needed for the competitive public facilities grant application in the amount of $1 million. You'll see on the agenda, there's also a related resolution right after this for the matching funds. They're both about the same application. However, we need a resolution explicitly contemplating submitting this application. So that's what this is. Nothing has fundamentally changed to the redevelopment plan. But if you have any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, any questions on that resolution? It's a formality, but we need to get it done, so we hopefully this time around we'll get the $1 million to help us with our blighted area on 5th Street. So if there are no other questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1068-2021.
A resolution of the City of Algoma providing a guarantee of matching funds for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities, CDBG-PF application.
Motion?
So
Moved by Scott,
Second.
second by Jackie. Discussion. Any questions or comments? I think Jared covered it pretty well. They go hand in hand, the two resolutions. If there are no questions, I will accept. I have the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 1069-2021.
A resolution authorizing the City of Algoma to enter into an agreement with Strand Associates, Inc. to provide engineering services for the 2021 Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, WPDES, Permit Assistance Services Project.
Motion?
No move.
Moved by Lee,
Second.
Second.
second by Mitch. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Tourism and Promotion Commission budget and letter on the room tax. This was in your packet. It's required for Tourism and Promotion to do a synopsis of their budget for the year. That's attached, and also they are saying that the city should continue to leave the room tax at 6%, which it's currently at. There was some discussion up into our neighbor to the north that they're looking at increasing their room tax up there, and I think that probably carried over to some discussion back here in Algoma, but their recommendation is that we leave it at 6%. Are there any questions on the information that was submitted? Okay, that's simply for a informational purpose. Item J, discussion on the masking policy in city-owned buildings following the repeal of the statewide mandate. Everybody is familiar that the Supreme Court overruled Governor Evers' mandate on the mask. There are some communities that have come out and basically passed their own mandate. We needed to discuss it this evening to see what the wishes of the council is at this point. So I'm opening it up for discussion to get your input to see if you want to make any decision, or do you want to go along with the repeal and let it up basically to each individual to do their own thing. Any questions on it? Leave it the way it is. What do you want to do? John?
What is the recommendation of the county health?
The county, from what I understand, the county health is going to basically recommend that people continue to wear their mask, but it's my understanding that the county board has not taken any, and they might at their upcoming meeting, John, but at the last meeting, which was back in March, of course, they were not aware of this. So it's just, Kinnard, she's recommending that people continue to practice good, safe practices as far as wearing a mask and social distancing and things like that.
Well, I would recommend that we continue to follow CDC and county health guidelines.
But they conflict, don't they? I mean, the county's not gonna enforce it, but CDC says, yes, you should.
Right.
So how you can't do them both? You gotta choose one.
Well,
You're
and
gonna do one or the other.
And the other problem is enforcing it. I mean, I don't feel, and the chief can jump in on this if he'd like, but it's hard for us to pass a mandate in the city of Algoma and enforce it. The only mandate that we could do is, and Jared, you can address this if you want at this point, what your recommendation is, and we can discuss that further. Why don't you tell everybody what you want?
So my recommendation would be to follow, kind of jumping off of the comment made about what's the county doing, would be to enforce a mask policy just as we were doing previously within city-owned buildings, meaning City Hall, the youth club, fire department, for example, where when anyone is in the city-owned facilities, residents, staff, when interacting with residents, would be required to wear a face mask. I agree with the assessment that passing an ordinance at the local level that would apply to businesses and private property would be simply too difficult to enforce. But we can still require it within our own buildings, and one, in compliance with CDC guidelines, but two, also just to set an example. I think it's appropriate to, at this time, still require it until we continue to see a decline in COVID cases and vaccination rates increase.
Haven't we?
There's been change, but I mean, it's only just today that vaccinations were opened up for people, anyone over the age of 6 or 18.
But
60.
16. Yeah, but I mean, but you had said when we see the cases go down and the vaccinations go up, that's what we've seen.
Right, I guess I meant to a greater level, with keeping in mind that today was only the first day that it's now open up to any adult.
I have like at the fire department, if it's just like a meeting night or something, I don't see, every one of them was offered to get the vaccine free of charge. And if they have a meeting or something, if they decline to get the vaccine, that's their choice, and they shouldn't worry about masks then either. If other people have, why would you wear a mask and not get the vaccine? If it's a public event that may happen at the fire station, that's a little different. But meeting nights, I don't see that being valid because, like I say, everybody was offered the chance. And if they didn't get the vaccine, that's their problem. And I think there should be some sort of an exception in that situation.
My only, I get what you're saying. My only reservation about that is now we're starting to carve out exceptions for certain departments. I would recommend uniformity across the city. Ultimately, it's the council's decision.
Well, let me throw this out. If you're going to enforce the mandate for mask in City Hall, then there's no reason that a councilman should not be here at the meeting. Then we can eliminate Zoom.
I don't know how you that I don't know if that's the logical conclusion.
Well,
I don't think that's a cause and effect.
Well, why not,
necessarily?
Casey?
I think.
Why not?
With all due respect.
You want these people that are here this evening. You want the chief of police. You want everybody to wear a mask when they're in City Hall because we're protecting against the coronavirus. Okay, most of us had the vaccine. So my point is, how long are we going to continue then with the Zoom?
I need one more.
As long as it's necessary, I guess. I mean, we're still in the pandemic. Just because things are on the ascendant doesn't necessarily mean that things are resolved. So I mean, I guess having that discussion about when we do it is something that we should, but that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily germane to this particular instance of wearing masks. And you know, part of it is personal responsibility too. I mean, vaccinated or not vaccinated, you're still a vector and you're still a carrier. It's not just that the entities don't exist on you. You know, so like there's rationale and reason for being vaccinated and also wearing a mask still. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer to you, Mayor, as far as when we should cease the Zoom thing, but I don't know if just because we all wear masks is a justification for everybody then clustering in, because separation is still going to be an issue. So masking and 6 feet social distancing, if we can do that safely in that area without Zoom, we can have that conversation. But until then, I don't think that we eliminate the Zoom option.
But shouldn't it be a freedom of choice? Shouldn't I have
freedom of choice to wear a mask or not wear a mask?
Whether or not I want to wear a mask. Now, if you notice this evening, there's none of us that are wearing masks in this room tonight, okay? Because
right.
We chose not to wear one because of the governor's mandate being lifted by the courts. I guess if we're going to, I hate to mandate something if I still should have my personal, I'm not against wearing a mask, don't get me wrong. But I can tell you that a lot of your businesses don't enforce it in town. And if we're going to enforce it at City Hall, I know Jared's saying we should set an example, but shouldn't it still be my privilege and my right whether or not I want to wear one? And I'm just speaking as myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the city. I know a lot of you. Go ahead.
Public health is the intersection of personal right versus public protection. That's why the whole CDC and everything else and how you can end up losing personal rights during such things as a pandemic. The rights of the individual do not exceed the rights of the community that it needs to be protected from the individual members.
But John,
that's why we have a CDC. That's why I was hoping you would say, you know, we should probably follow CDC guidelines. I don't know of any CDC guidelines that state what you're effectively doing.
Well, can I add also that Supreme Court decision, they stated in there that the policy was a good policy, but the problem was the governor's overreach. So they're saying that they support the idea of it, and it is good practice, but it's just they're saying that the governor didn't have unilateral authority to maintain the mask mandate. So,
correct.
You know, to be clear on that.
You're right, Casey, but it'll be up then to the legislators to come back and to basically work with the governor to basically pass another mandate. But until that's done,
or we could pass a local mandate, and if we don't think we can effectively police or control it outside of the confines of the city buildings, but we can control it inside the city buildings. I think that we should do whatever is in, or to the extent of our power, to be able to mandate. And that, so the legislature can put in a statewide one, but the council can put in a local one to whatever authority that we are able to maintain.
Okay.
You're starting to get into differences of opinions here. I do not support a masking policy. I do not support a masking mandate. It is not something that we can enforce, whether it be in city-owned buildings or if it's going to be public restaurants or businesses in Algoma. I do not support this. No, it's an individual right. It's an individual opinion. And when you start getting into conversations about individual rights and freedoms being taken away for the good or the masses, that's a very slippery slope. I mean, it didn't work out for a couple of countries in the past. That's my opinion. I don't support it at all, 100%.
Scott, question, you said it's a matter of opinion. Could you clarify what you believe is an opinion? And the second thing, as far as personal freedom goes, civilization, if you want to go broadly, if you want to look at individual countries, civilization as a whole, humanity as a whole has succeeded through cooperation, through working together for the benefit of the whole. That's why we've succeeded so efficiently, so well as a species. So to say that there's not a precedence that we work together for the greater good, I think is a bit it's not as thorough or not as appropriate as it could be. But my first question, what's an opinion that we're discussing here?
Whether or not masks are effective and actually do anything. I'm sorry, but you're not going to change my opinion on this, Keith. I'm sorry.
I'm not looking to change your opinion. I just want to get your perspective out here, because the CDC is saying that masking is appropriate. There are studies that show that there's an effectiveness to masking. I can find detail for you, and I'm not interested in changing your opinion, Scott. But I want to be sure that we're clear on what's opinion and what's not. So if you're saying that the CDC's information is an opinion, you're calling into question the legitimacy of the things that we're supposed to collectively be relying on, that exists for the benefit and safety of our society.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm questioning the legitimacy of what's being portrayed in our media for the last 12 months. I'm sorry, Casey, but for every scientific data or test that has been done that shows that it is effective, there's one out there that says it's not. I'm standing firm with this, resolute. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I've said what I need to say.
No need to apologize to me, Scott. I'm not the one that you're speaking to, but thank you. I appreciate your explaining that. Thank you.
The idea behind this discussion was to find out how everybody felt. It's ultimately the council's decision. I have an opinion just like everybody else. I told you what mine is. But it's ultimately you 8 people that are going to decide if you want to put in a mandate to have masks in all city property. And that's what the question is that Jared's asking. But in order to do that, go ahead. Kevin, was that you?
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not coming to the council meeting and sitting there and getting infected by COVID when I haven't got it all year. And being cooped up in that room unless everybody wears masks and keeps that 6 feet. But on the other hand, what's the difference if we put a sign on the door that says masks are recommended? If they wear them, they wear them. If they don't, they don't. Why can't we just do that? That's what businesses do. Give them their choice, and if they want to wear it, who cares?
CDC, that's a
At least have the sign up.
It's not
Yeah. And you can do
and
that.
they make the choice.
I don't know what, Aaron, you might want to
That's
comment what you're going to do tomorrow for election.
I stand with the mayor, with Scott. My opinions follow theirs, that if it's up to me, no masks. I don't see any problem that says, if you'd like to wear a mask, please feel free to do so. I have no issue putting anything up like that. But if you're asking me what my personal preference is, it is going to be that we aren't mandating masks on city property, because I am a believer it's my choice. Again, I think you guys have made a lot of good comments. You've done your research on it. That's great. I guess it's gonna all depend on what the council says here tonight, but if you're asking me what I would like to do and what I want to do, it will not be masking. Now, if somebody comes in and wants a mask or says, hey, can you put a mask on while I vote? Absolutely. If that's gonna make you come in and feel more comfortable, sure. But I know throughout this week, since that has been overturned, people have come in and they see that we don't, or I don't have a mask on, and they immediately take theirs off and thank us for it. That's just what I've seen, so.
I didn't want to put you on the spot. I guess I was wondering what the people that were working tomorrow, what, if you're going to request that everybody wear a mask that's working the polls?
Again, it would be, if it's up to me, it's your choice. If you want to wear the mask, then wear the mask. The mandate was lifted, so I don't see that I should be able to mandate one here on city property unless I am told by the council tonight that I have to mandate one.
Okay. Lee, did you have any comments, or
I say no.
Jackie,
No.
any more? No. Okay, that's fine. I guess it's up to you people, if what you want to do. If you're going to mandate that we have masks in City Hall, then somebody would have to make that motion and somebody would have to second it. We'd have to put it up to a vote.
Can I make a motion that we follow the counties and recommend it, but we aren't mandating it?
You can.
We're not requiring it.
I would make that motion. The city recommends it. We are mandating it for employees or for the public,
Okay.
and go from there. People want to wear a mask tomorrow when they come and vote, feel free to do it and don't feel uncomfortable.
Right.
You know,
You shouldn't.
It's your right, but don't start complaining and call Randy to come and have somebody thrown out of City Hall either.
But do we even have to put one up though? I mean, if it's
It
recommended, I mean, if you feel comfortable enough wearing one, or if you feel that you need to, then by all means wear one. But if you don't feel that you need to, well then you don't. You know, there's a lot of places around that still have, you know, masks recommended, and I take that as I can wear it if I want to, and if I don't want to, you're not gonna kick me out.
Correct.
So do we even really need to post anything about that?
I like your idea about saying, you know, that we're not mandating it, but masks can be recommended. That's what I've seen in the majority of the businesses. When I was in Arizona, where they lifted the mandate, but yet it was up to each individual whether or not they wanted to wear one. So I think I don't want people to feel uncomfortable because they're coming in with a mask on. That's not the point. Mm-hmm. The point is that we want to force everyone to wear one, and I like your suggestion to add to Mitch's Lee?
Well, with me watching the news, national news last week and they had a special on channel 2 or 5, I'm not sure. But they discussed it with some lawyers and then people from the state. And they said the recommendation that you wear a mask is totally your decision, but you can't enforce it really strong because that's discrimination. People have the right, you have the right, if you don't want to wear it, you don't have to, because there is no longer a state mandate. So I agree, kind of like she said, is put on there that it's, you know, it's there, but if you don't want to, you don't have to wear one. And I mean, I've gone several places that if I go in, I put a mask on and.
You go to Menards, you know you gotta wear one.
Yeah.
Yeah, required is different than recommended.
Right.
You know, required means you gotta put it on. Recommended means if you wanna wear it, go ahead.
Mitch, did you want to elaborate on that with your motion, or do you want to not do a motion, or what?
Well, I mean,
Or do you want to do nothing? I mean, I can let it up to somebody else if you want to, somebody wants to make a motion that we mandate masks in City Hall. That's
I
their,
don't wanna make that motion.
there's prerogative out there, if somebody wants to make that motion.
Mayor, just if I can interject
Sure.
real quick. It's a difference between mandate, requirement, recommendation, and what an ordinance is. When you start mandating, there's authority to enforcing it, right? How are you gonna enforce that? Businesses and government are separate entities. A business can say, I'm mandating this, Mitch, you can't come in here, I'm gonna lose your sale. A government entity saying, Mitch, you can't come in here, you can't buy a cemetery lot, now we have a lawsuit. there's a difference, and it has to be different from a civilian entity and a government entity, and it's something you have to take consideration. So when you start talking mandates, then you need to have a law in the books. So it's easy to say we're going to mandate this, but that could turn out and bite the city in the butt in a lawsuit.
Okay.
Because the point is, if you're not going to pass an ordinance, you can't mandate.
Well, and I'm not gonna pass an ordinance,
No,
because if I pass an ordinance, how am I gonna enforce it? I can't pass an ordinance just to apply to City Hall. If I'm gonna pass an ordinance, it's gonna apply to the whole city. And I don't think that's the intent of this discussion, is to look at passing an ordinance.
And I just want to clarify, my recommendation and why I put this on the agenda was for us to require it in city buildings. I would have to respectfully disagree with the police chief about the legality of that. That is totally within our rights, both as property owner and as an employer. We can do that. I have run that by legal counsel. That is perfectly legal to do. I presented my recommendation. You don't have to go with it. It's strictly for city facilities, city hall, fire department. We can talk about having an exception for that, the youth club. Strictly limiting it to that. You don't need an ordinance to enforce a policy on city property.
What about the street shop?
That would also apply.
Apply that we'd be wearing a mask every day.
We would enforce the same policy that we have been doing thus far.
I'll make a motion to follow what the city administrator is recommending, following the CDC and requiring them on properties, city properties.
I'll second that.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if somebody comes in and they don't want to wear it? Then what do you do? Just let them come in and not wear it?
You're enforcing it right there.
I don't know what happens at a grocery store when people don't do it.
So when someone comes in to vote tomorrow and they're not wearing a mask, am I to tell them they can't vote?
No, we can still require it. We have to provide a special accommodation for them to vote, but we could enforce it for voters.
What if they have a medical condition that doesn't allow them to wear a mask?
Then you can't do anything if they have a medical
Election
condition.
Commission has put out, you cannot make people wear masks to vote. You have to allow them in without a mask. That's already been stated.
It's law. Okay, I apologize.
Well,
I don't want to get into an argument with the rest
We
of
have
the
a
staff
motion,
here
we have a motion on the floor in a second. The question was asked by Kevin about what happens if somebody comes in without a mask to vote. Amber just interjected that you cannot deny anybody from voting if they do not wear a mask. If this motion goes through, then you need to put the sign on the door. Masks are required, but you're gonna have to do some wording, and I don't know how you're gonna do that. So, are there any other comments or questions on the motion? The motion is that we mandate that everybody wears a mask when in city-owned buildings. The other comment I have, and Mitch made it before, the fire department is a little different situation there too. I mean, and we can't start picking and choosing where we're going to, if we're gonna pass this, then everybody's gonna be doing it. Just so you're familiar with that, because at one of our last meetings, the chief brought up about everybody had their vaccination, and if you chose not to, that was your prerogative. But it's kind of hard to have a meeting where we're limited in space and social distance, and he left it up to everybody. If they didn't want to attend the meeting, that was fine, and if they wanted to attend it and not wear a mask, that was fine with them. He gave them the freedom of choice to do what they wanted. And everybody when I was at that meeting, there was one individual that wore a mask, and the rest didn't. So I just want to be clear that if this gets passed, it's everybody then. You cannot pick and choose and say, well, City Hall's going to wear a mask, but the fire department's not. Or City Hall's going to wear a mask, but Public Works is not.
So this is saying my employees will be wearing a mask starting tomorrow morning, all day long at work.
If it passes.
Well, see, that's the part that I don't quite understand,
Right.
because
What makes them
it's, when you're in a city building, now they're out on the road. Our police officers don't wear a mask until they come across somebody. County officers don't wear a mask.
You don't wear a mask in your car.
No, you don't.
You don't wear a mask in your car, you're not dumb. You wear it when you're in contact with people.
Correct.
Right.
There are people that do so. Can we vote?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
All right, enough said. I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this too.
Weeze,
No.
Gressel,
No.
Boer,
Yes.
Dashlet,
No.
Maring,
You're on mute, Jake.
He's thinking.
No.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Habik,
Yes.
Meverden,
No.
5 noes, 3 yeses.
5 noes, 3 yeses, motion fails. Okay. Let's move on to administrator's report. Jared?
Yep. So redevelopment area number 2, as I discussed last month, we received the close grant for $696,603.58. We're putting the final touches on the follow-up grant, the public facilities grant that we passed the resolutions here earlier tonight for. That's for a $1 million competitive grant. We'll be applying for that next month. But prior to that, we have to have a public hearing with the RDA. That is currently scheduled for Thursday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. And the application is due in mid-May, and we'll know the results of that, as we were told, by mid to late July. The public facility update, public safety facility update, excuse me. We've met with 2 of our 3 anticipated builders to keep the process moving forward. Once we have that, or I should say following that 3rd meeting, we'll convene as staff and then come back to the finance and personnel with a recommendation for the next steps. Youth club reopening. The Parks Director and I have been discussing this, and it was brought up to the Parks Committee recently. We're moving forward and have already started with a soft reopening, for lack of a better term. Basically, we're allowing the incentive days that the students at the school district have to attend and be at the youth club for those, and we're also permitting the rental of the facility with a maximum capacity of 50, and that's talking about the entire facility, so the rec side, the gym side, as well as the upper level. So that's for the entire structure. Obviously, you could ignore the last part of that bullet point because that's no longer the case, requiring the wearing of masks. Beach cleaner grant award. We were awarded a grant to purchase a beach cleaner, which will be arriving within the next 4 to 5 weeks approximately. In particular, we want to thank the Friends of Crescent Beach, the Community Improvement of Algoma, and the Tourism and Promotion Committee. They provided matching funds and support to acquire this grant. Really, without their help, we couldn't have done this, and this beach cleaner is going to go a long way to helping us maintain Crescent Beach and pick up things as small as a cigarette butt. So it's quite the purchase for us, and it'll be a good asset for the beach. Yes.
Can you, for the CDC and what was the other one that I?
Tourism and promotion.
Tourism and promotion. They had said they would give, I don't remember the amount, up to a certain amount.
Yeah.
Are those total amounts being used? I mean, if it was 5,000, they're both good.
Yep.
Could you send whoever, probably Jan, something saying this is what you said you would give up to this amount, and this is what we need from you?
Okay.
So they know.
That's tourism and promotion, and then CDC, it's
CDC.
Meverden, right?
Yes. And then didn't CIA?
Well, it was CIA that gave 5,000 and tourism and promotion gave 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. Did I say
CDC
community development? I did not mean
No.
community development.
CDC didn't.
It was community improvement. I
But
apologize if I
those
misspoke.
monies were part
Right, okay.
that we needed to purchase it.
And we had both said up to this
Yeah.
much, and we didn't know if you were gonna need the total amount.
Yeah.
Just so they know that they do.
Okay.
And then finally, kind of the big one here. I sent the council an email a couple weeks ago about this. As you all know, the second big federal COVID response, the American Rescue Plan, was passed a couple weeks ago. Since then, we've learned that the city of Algoma should be receiving approximately $300,000 in direct payments from the federal. Well, I shouldn't say direct payments. It'll be coming from the federal government At first, it'll be in 2 tranches. They'll both go through the state. So within 60 days of enactment, the Treasury has to send the states the amounts allocated for the local governments, and then within 30 days of that, the state will pass the money through to the municipalities. They cannot place any restrictions on that. They can't tack on an administrative fee and otherwise garnish it in any way. So we will be getting that full amount. The first tranche we'll receive within those 90 days of enactment. The second one will be within a year of the first one. So by this time next year, we'll have received the full amount. It'll be in 2 equal installments. We have until December 31st, 2024 to spend the money. So unlike the CARES Act, which had a very short timeline to spend, this one has a very long time to spend. So with that, I just want to stress, as I alluded to in the email to the council, that we'll be taking a very deliberate and strategic approach to this. I realize in the grand scheme of things, $300,000 is not like a huge amount of money, but to me it's certainly significant enough where if we're smart with it, we could accomplish quite a bit, especially if we look at cooperating with other entities who also are receiving monies. So just informational at this point, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at. At the end of the day, we'll be coming forward for any non-operational things, so like PPE, sanitization equipment, that's not something we would come to the council for, but anything really larger scale than that will be coming to the council to advise and seek the blessing or even formal approval of to spend those monies.
Hey, Jared, can I ask a quick question in regards to that? Is that going to be a reimbursement type like the CARES, or is it upfront half?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. No, it is not a reimbursement. They are basically just sending us. Think of it like we received the stimulus money both last year in March and with the passing of the more recent one. As an individual, we received stimulus money. It's like that, but on a bigger scale.
Okay.
Can I ask
Jared, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, sorry.
So we voted down the mask mandate, which is fine. We're not going to put the recommendations like even the health department says we should do. Like you recommend a mask.
I'll talk to Aaron after.
We're not going to do that.
I'll talk to Aaron after the meeting. We will put something on the door that it's not required, but
It is your choice.
it's your choice.
We didn't pass that.
No.
As a group, we did not pass that.
Can we make a motion to do that?
We could put a note on the door. That's our prerogative as City Hall to say it's not.
I have notes on the wall that say, please sanitize your hands. I mean, we can easily come up with a note about wearing masks.
Well, I'm just asking because that's recommended by even the health department.
Well, then you should have passed the ordinance. But that was the recommendation and it got voted down.
Right. I have a further question for Jared with respect to the youth club reopening. We're not even carrying through what they have in the school district with respect to COVID type of precautions. But you talk about a maximum capacity of 50. That's not the fire safety code maximum. Where is that coming from? If we're not following CDC guidelines, where's that coming from?
Sarah.
The youth club opening, we are not having a regular youth club weekend night that we normally would see upwards to 100 to 105 kids. What we are doing for the youth club for the youth is keeping them in their pods. So they're coming down one classroom at a time with the kids that they're always with. They're not coming down in groups. So they came last week in different classes. We sanitized in between each class. They're coming next week during their testing, and they're coming one class at a time. As far as the youth club rentals for the 50, we did call different communities. We called Green Bay, Ashwaubenon, Alloway to find out what they were doing as far as rentals of their facilities for parties, and they didn't have any kind of number on any kind of restrictions on numbers that they would allow for people to rent. So the number for 50 was if somebody were to rent the youth club for a birthday party or a family party, 50 people, I mean, the youth club would hold more than that, obviously, but that was where we felt we were comfortable with keeping the crowd size a little bit on the smaller side. So that's kind of where those numbers came from.
But what if someone challenges that? What if somebody says, you know, I've got a large family, 50's not gonna cut it?
Then they wouldn't be able, at this point, that was the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Committee, and that's, then I would say that they would not be able to rent it if it was a really large party. We're not having any large scale community events, so.
But we are not enforcing CDC guidelines. We are not adopting those as our city guidelines.
That was what those recommendations for using the youth club or the community building was what came from the Parks and Rec Committee last month.
Were they adopted by the council?
They don't need to be.
I don't think that they need to be. I ran it by the administrator.
Jared?
That kind of policy would not need to be approved by the council. We are within our rights as the city to do that. Sarah and I discussed it and wanted to run it by the Parks Committee because we felt like it appropriately fell under their purview, but at the end of the day, we could have simply made the decision unilaterally, but opted not to.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay.
I did have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The PPE money, or not PPE, but the money that we received way back a year ago,
The
how much was
50,000.
it? Was 50,000?
50,000.
What did we do with that money?
I could pull a specific report. I didn't for tonight, but largely we spent it on PPE, sanitizing equipment. We purchased laptops, the Zoom account, which I mean obviously that's nominal, but we purchased tough books. We renovated the office space down the hallway here to relocate the staff down the hallway, and that's largely it. I don't think I'm leaving anything out, but again, if wanted, I can pull a specific report because we have all that information.
No, I'm just a generalization.
Yep.
You know, as far as where the monies were placed.
Mhm.
So if we remodeled that office or the office space,
Yep.
why aren't we using it as such?
So that's kind of complicated. It was a little bit of a wrench thrown from a staffing perspective when our previous clerk left and we had a new clerk start, and we felt that we wanted to onboard. Sorry, I feel a little. So I apologize, Aaron. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's talking like you're not right there, but we felt like in order to help Aaron onboard and get trained properly, it would be more difficult if they were separated. The justification for renovating that space is that we'd be separating the employees for health reasons. So with a new staff member coming on board, though, particularly one who's not a previous clerk, we felt like for training purposes it made sense to keep them together. So the move will be happening.
A year from now or what?
I'm just
So,
asking.
Jared.
This is getting ridiculous. We spend money on it and do all this work and it sits there as an empty building.
Jared, I got a question when I can see you on here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So are you gonna move down to where the girls are now so you can take their office, so you can be on the ground floor, so disabled people can see you and you don't have to sit up on the second floor then?
The plan is not yet for me to move downstairs, but we haven't made a final decision on how to utilize the office space.
Well, wouldn't that make more sense? Then you're all available downstairs.
That's
And
certainly.
you could use more of this COVID money.
It's certainly worth consideration. Yes.
I was just asking because I mean to spend 25,000 or whatever was spent to do the carpeting, the desk, the painting, the ceiling, the whatever else that was done in there, and then just to see it not being used. You know, I just want to make sure that those monies were spent appropriately and that they do end up being utilized sooner rather than later.
Any other questions? It will be used. Okay, then let's move on to mayor's. A couple things, and I'm gonna save the best for last. First of all, I need to bring everybody up to date on the brush pickup. The Public Works crew is working on collecting brush, which was today, April 5th, 2021. It may not finish until later this week. Brush will not be picked up on April 19th, as the crew will be busy installing the marina docks. Brush pickup will resume on Monday, May 3rd, and will continue the first and third Monday through October 2021. So anybody watching this at home, let your neighbors know that I know there's a big pile of brush up by us that will not get picked up until next week. So the other thing is reminder, tomorrow's election. I think we know that. The polls open at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. So if you exercise your right as an American and vote. And then last but not least, and this is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When are Jackie and I officially done? I mean,
You are done on April 19th, right? Reorganization's on the 20th.
Is there a finance and personnel before that?
No,
Or is it after?
it's after that
Okay.
meeting, that day.
So technically,
You don't have to come to that meeting.
I think we'll be in the hospital
Oh, are you having surgery?
next Wednesday.
Oh, okay, well, we'll talk more about that later.
Okay.
Can I add one comment?
Yes, you may.
The mayor had touched that the election is tomorrow. This is just for anybody out there who still has absentee ballots. Please feel free to bring them into City Hall anytime tomorrow between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. We have a drop box. You can put them in there. You can walk them into the office. You can walk them right up to the poll books. We will take them. So please get your absentee ballots in. Thank you.
Okay. That being said, we talked about election tomorrow. We've had two people that have served on the city council for the last 6 years, Jackie Wees and Mitch Gressel, who have decided not to run for re-election. And I can tell you that they both will be dearly missed. I appreciate working with them the last 6 years. They're both individuals that are not afraid to express their views. They think outside the box. They've made Algoma a better place because of the two of them, and I'm dearly going to miss them. In recognition, I just wanted to present each one of them with a plaque this evening. It's just a certificate of appreciation for the 6 years of service that you have given to the city of Algoma. I know it's not a gold watch or anything like that, but you know, my budget is not that big here, so I couldn't give you a gold watch. But again, on behalf of myself, the city staff, and hopefully the rest of the council members, I do want to thank you for everything that you've done for us. We might not have always agreed, but at the end of the day, we still walked away friends and we remained friends. So I think we just need to give them a round of applause, and then we'll give each. Jackie, any comments?
It's definitely been a ride. I probably would not have even entertained serving the city in this position had the mayor not approached me about 6.5 years ago or so. And I can thank him for putting me here, I guess. I appreciate everything that everyone contributes to the city. There's a lot of moving parts. I don't think everybody realizes how many moving parts there actually are. I do appreciate each person I've worked with, people that I have learned things about, their positions. I am thankful that for the support of each of you as well, the support of my family. That's also very important. Because without their support, I probably wouldn't have stayed quite this long. But I intended to stay longer, but you know, the leaves on the trees blew in a different direction, so here I am. But I thank you, and don't forget, we serve the people of this community. We don't serve ourselves, which I think is something to keep in mind anytime a decision comes up that we need to make. But just knowing that we're doing it for the betterment of the community and the people who live here. So thank you.
Thank you. Mitch?
It was a difficult decision not to run for me. I thought about it for about, 2 months or so, and I decided health had to come first and take care of that. I'll miss it. We don't have a really good newspaper in this town, and I don't have cable, so I guess I could watch it on, but I'll miss not knowing in depth what's going on. And who knows, in 4 years, if everything with my health goes well, I'd look at it again, but I did what I had to do, and I don't regret it, and hopefully everything works out, and maybe someday you'll see me again.
Good. Again, thank you, both of yous. Appreciate it. And again, I look forward to, maybe not in the capacity of an older person, but maybe in the capacity of serving on a committee in the future. If you feel that you're ready for that, just let me or the mayor, whoever sits in this spot, know that you're willing to serve on one of our committees as a citizen. So thanks again. A couple other items, just to update. April 20th is the reorganizational meeting for the newly elected people and swearing in those that are up for election. Councilman, you will be getting an email from me probably tomorrow or in the next couple days, giving you the opportunity to tell me which committees you'd like to serve on. Again, it's no guarantee that I'll appoint you to that committee because I need to kind of spread everything out. After the election, I'll meet with the 2 new people that are elected to those positions and sit down with them and discuss some of these committee options. So May 3rd is our regular council meeting, again at 6 p.m. To everybody, I want to thank everybody for everything they've done, and this meeting is officially adjourned. I'll accept the motion. Moved by Lee.
Second.
Second by Jackie for the last time. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you very much. Nay.